Cheer up. Good luck, guys.
InsyaAllah, terima kasih.
So for all the questions, you have prepared the answer, right?
Roughly lah. I've read through. So nasib baik juga because I thought initially semua soalan akan tanya. So I already prepared lah.
Okay. But you have to read the questions, right?
Okay, sure.
Alright.
Assalamualaikum and good evening, dear viewers. Welcome to Season 10 of Political Insights, 40 Minutes of Political Knowledge. I'm Shaza and I'll be your host for tonight. Now, viewers, with campus election around the corner, what better time is there to talk about politics? So, since campus politics is an extension of our national politics, I am here delighted to bring you our topic for the first episode, Youthquake Empowering Young Voices in Politics. In today's live session, we will discuss the importance of the empowerment of young voices and why they shouldn't fear being involved in politics. Now, I'm no expert, so I am excited to introduce you to our remarkable guest, Brother Ali Karim. Assalamualaikum, brother. How are you today?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Doing fine, alhamdulillah.
Okay, so as you guys can see, Brother Ali is a familiar face. Now, but since our audience are, very diverse, brother, do you care to introduce yourself?
Good evening. My name is Ahli Karim, as mentioned. I am currently serving as the RCE Youth Coordinator at RCE Greater Gombak. And I'm also a writer. I write on Utusan Malaysia, the newspaper, every week, sometimes on politics. And in fact, you can find my article tomorrow, which will be about politics as well. So aside that, I also write about social issues in general. So yeah.
I see. Okay, now, Brother Ali, we will now dive into our topic. But before that, could you tell us your opinion on a group of young generations who are afraid to be involved in politics, who think that their voice doesn't matter?
Well, I think most importantly to understand when answering that question first is, do the voice of the youth matter? Which I would say definitely so. I mean, if we were to take the saying, which is that if you want to look at the future, how the future would look like, you would look at the youth today, how they are like, will reflect how the future of our humanity is. So definitely the youth is what will shape the future, because this is the composition of the society that will actually build upon who are the future leaders. So, but when it comes to you know, how they feel that they do not matter, I think that stems a lot from the fact that they feel underrepresented in society. Because oftentimes when we look at things, people prioritize more on the current generation of you know, the older people, the older generations.
The current politicians.
Yes. So, but actually, it's not that. Sorry, it's not that only the youth matter as well. It's all of us. So the thing is that we want to build a future together, and this is what requires both the youth and the seniors, and even the younger than us. You know, our adik-adik, our younger siblings.
Yeah.
You know, from those from school still, they also matter for the future. So what's important to understand is the oneness of the society. And from there, I think if the youth truly understand that, then they know the responsibility that we have as youth, as students, in shaping the future and shaping the brighter future for the generations to come.
Okay, wow, that was greatly articulated. Thank you. Now, Brother Ali, I think I say this for the viewers when I say we are actually curious to know more about your motivations behind the decision to pursue a career in politics. So, could you share, was there any specific events or influences that have drive you to this path?
I think when speaking about career in politics, one thing I have to make clear, there's many types of careers in politics. You know, one is the most commonly spoken about is to become a politician, which for myself isn't really my goal. But for me, what has been my interest since I was young is to analyze the political situation, to understand politics, to study politics itself. So the thing, sorry, the thing that has been motivating me all the while since I was a child is that I find politics as a very interesting field where you will see, you know, many different types of people with different opinions trying to work together and sometimes even amalgamate among each other. And in order to shape a certain future for the generations to come. So this is imbued with all sorts of things from ideology, you know, personal ideologies of certain individuals and personal goals of certain groups of individuals, and even general universal values such as, you know, sustainability and such and so forth. So when it comes to that, I feel that it's important to understand how politics work in order to make sure that we can shape a better political landscape and political environment in the future, especially as I mentioned before, we will be the ones who will be leading the politics eventually. Perhaps not all of us, but, you know, still our generation. Yes,
have to fill in the shoes of our current leaders. So you've said that pursuing a career in politics is not exactly your end goal. Is that true?
Yes.
All right. So you're still a student. And how do you balance your academic pursuit with your side involvement in political activities? Are there any methods that you follow to not compromise one another?
I think in this case, what's most important for us to understand is that, you know, from understanding the word student itself, it comes from the word to study. And similarly, in this case of the Malay word mahasiswa, it also comes from the word siswa, which means a disciple or a person who seeks knowledge. So this is the main purpose of us as students. The first thing is to actually study. So all in all, before we prioritize any other activities. I'm not just saying in the sense of politics in general, but even other activities. This is important for us to understand that as students, we must prioritize our studies first. But we must also remember that learning is beyond just being in the classroom and studying based on the books and the textbooks. You also must get the general exposure. So what's important for us to do is, first of all, to make sure that what we're doing, the side activities that we do, is actually in line with seeking knowledge. And secondly, to have a lot of focus on our studies, meaning to say, pay attention to whether you're lacking behind in your subjects, or one advice that I would say that I passed on even from my seniors actually, which is to maintain a good relationship with your lecturers. I'm not saying like you should please them. That's not something that I feel is too ethical, to create that bias. But what I'm trying to say is that to be able to consult them and seek for their help whenever you don't understand based on either you don't understand it in the class, or you're doing your own reading and you find something that you don't really understand. If you have a good relationship with your lecturer, you can easily just ask them either some lecturers, they're open for you to text or email them, or some other lecturers you can meet after the class, and talk to them, or in their office. So yeah.
Well, your involvement in politics, has there ever been any instances where it was hindering your academic journey?
I mean, in any of my activities, not just politics, it's sometimes, I have to say, it sometimes does. Even back then, when I was taking SPM, I got distracted a lot of times from studying. But for me, it's not really a matter that the activity hinders my studies. It is my own negligent decision. Yeah, because I'm not the best at managing my time. But it's trying to learn, as we go. So it's always when I'm not able to balance the task myself, which is when I tend to get left behind.
I see. I mean, that's where we learn, actually.
Yes.
It's nothing serious.
You learn from mistakes.
Yep. Now, so since we are halfway through our show, actually, I have to ask, you have been involved in this since you were young, right? With the guidance of the people around you, and if I'm not mistaken, your father, was it? Right. So when you were doing this, have you ever feel like your voice wasn't going to be heard?
I think this is something that before that, to understand whether it's, I'm not saying that your voice should not be heard, but I can't remember the name of the author, but during the clash of the Napoleonic armies in modern day Germany, there was this philosophy teacher actually, who was quickly finishing his book, not knowing that at that time he was writing, the armies were already raiding the village, the town that he was in, and he was finishing his book, not knowing whether he would be able to finish it and whether people will actually be able to read it. In fact, because oftentimes when people sack cities, they will burn down libraries and took books and all of that. But what's important for him is to try and leave that message behind, and in hopes that people will actually read it in the future. And yes, his books actually are referred to a lot in when we talk about philosophy, and it's also it also played a very big role in the resistance against the French after that. So throughout my past, I have of course had times when I felt a bit unheard, even today, even until today. But at the same time, those for me keep me more motivated in trying to push further, because people always sometimes tell oh, you're a child, you're not an adult yet.
It's actually a rocky path, because
you
don't want to get yourself comfortable.
Yes, but at the same time, sometimes as youth especially, we want to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
So we want to say that no, the thing is that we can do it, and we know. I mean, as long as you know what you're doing, then your own determination should be able to push yourself forward and to having yourself heard.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that, you know, we are sometimes rebellious as
Yeah.
youth, but you need the right channel and make sure the
Yes.
message you're trying to convey is correct. Okay, now viewers, actually we have more to discuss, but before we proceed with our first commercial break, I just want to remind you guys that the chat box is open and you can now type in any questions relating to this topic, and we will have our guest, Brother Ali, answer it in the next session. So don't go anywhere, stay tuned, and I'll see you in 2 minutes. Okay. Assalamualaikum and welcome back, viewers. I hope you guys are as ready and as refreshed as I am to dive into Political Insights 40 Minutes of Political Knowledge with Brother Ali. Now, Brother Ali, we've dived into your background and your aspirations for the future. So now it is time to hear your opinion. Do you believe that the voices and contributions of younger generations are crucial for driving positive change and progress within our nation?
Well, as I mentioned earlier on, definitely, because as the youth of today, we are the leaders of the future. So right now, what we have to do is to be the agents of change towards a better future. You know, so definitely speaking, when we're speaking of the youth, they are they must get involved into shaping the future, whether not just in politics, but this is broad in understanding economy and understanding society in general. This is why it's important for us to seek knowledge as the youth or as the young generation. So, but at the same time, we must also understand that we're all still in the learning process. I'm not saying that the seniors are not learning as well. We're all learning, but especially us, we are.
We have a different responsibility.
Yes, we have a different responsibility to build ourselves, so that before we build the society, we have our own selves taken care of. So when we're talking about creating positive change and all of this, there is something that we must keep in mind, which is that we can't rush into the whole thing and feel that, oh, just because I can vote now, just because I'm the youth, it means I can immediately create a change. This is something that I discussed back in my writing on Utusan when Undi 18, the bill was going to be passed, was when it was still in the discussion phase, which is that I was saying in fact, when we're talking about changing lowering the voting age, why not lowering it to 15 years old? In fact, 18 years old is a Western construct. In Islam, we believe that maturity comes at the age of aqi-baligh, which generally speaking in modern days we kind of like generalize it to 15 years old. Why not we do that? But the most important thing when doing so is that to make sure that we are prepare this youth, no matter we prepare them at whether the voting age is like 18 or 15 or 13, what we must make sure is that by that age they must be prepared and knowledgeable and aware regarding how all of these politics work, because otherwise when it comes to politics especially, we tend to get a bit too a bit too excited.
Yep.
And we feel that, we can create, now that we have the power, we can create this change. And this, I think, is something that's concerning, because it's also the thing that corrupts a lot of politicians. I have the power now, I'm a leader, it means that I can do all of these things. It's the same thing, but you're just putting this on a different level of the society. So we have to have that self-awareness and humility first before understanding that we must make a change.
I see. That's actually very true. As a youth, I relate to that. So, considering the importance of civic engagement and the impact of diverse voices in shaping our future, I'm eager to hear your perspective. And could you elaborate on why young individuals should embrace political involvement without fear? Because we don't want them to be overconfident in pursuing what they want to push. But at the same time, I think there are many that are just fearful. And why do you think that happens, and how should they tackle that?
I think first of all, it's the general perception of the society. As mentioned, people tend to feel that politics is an adult thing. But at the same time, if we were to look the foundations of our country, back when we just achieved, Malaysia was just formed, before the Federation of Malaya was just formed, most of our leaders were actually very young. They were in the 30s and 40s and such. So this is something that we can see. Just because we see them as old today doesn't mean that they didn't start as young. And that puts as an example for us that we don't need to wait till we're old. We're always ready. As long as we're ready, we can always take the initiative to go in and to make a change. And sometimes it is discouraging, because there's a lot of opposition when we're doing anything. We're trying to make any change. Humans are resistant to humans love to resist change. So we have to make understand very well what we want to do, in order to not be pressured by all of the criticisms that we face whenever we go out and into the public sphere, where they would shower you with all these attacks. And this is something that we must also put in mind when looking at ourselves. So we tend to feel that whenever we do something, we want to be confident. But at the same time, confidence must come with understanding that no person is perfect, including ourselves. So having that kind of holistic understanding, which is that, okay, yes, I am confident, I want to push for the truth, and I know the truth, but at the same time, knowing that you are a human and you're prone to make mistakes, it gives a better understanding and security for you to step into the public, and not only to be confident in what you're trying to present, but also not make a fool of yourself by, if someone, let's say, someone criticize you, or points out that you're wrong at something that you really are, you won't make a fool of yourself by saying that, oh no, I am right. And this is something that I faced in the past. I've said many things, or posted many things, written many things that are, of my own negligent lack of reading. You
think you were overconfident?
I thought I was right, but upon publication or upon saying it out, I was told that it's not, and being open to it. Although you may think that, when you think that you're wrong, you're going to be more afraid. But no, actually, it makes you more confident that, okay, I've learned something today, so now I will try my best to not make the same mistake again in the future.
I see. So it's not to say that your political journey was perfect. You faced
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Actually, it's a step to perfection.
Yes.
Perhaps. Okay, so as we mentioned before, we have opened the chat box and we've let you guys comment questions that you want answered. So now we will have our crew live read your questions and have Brother Ali answer them.
I am interested in politics. However, my parents seems to not approve of it. Is there a way to convince my parents that my voice can change for a better future?
This is something. That's a good question. This is something that not only, like our own parents say, but also other adults. They tend to tell us that the stigma that you've, and actually I faced this before. Back when I was 13, 14. That was when I lodged a police report against a politician, a local politician, and the thing somehow made it rounds to the news. And reading the comments on social media and such, they were saying that there's only two possibilities. First is that I was going there under the command of my parents. Okay. Meaning to say that my parents were using me as a young face to,
to
create so much shock in sensation. Or secondly, my parents are irresponsible for letting me learn about politics at a young age. But this is the thing that we must understand, I think, and what we have to try and advocate further, which is that if we start to learn about politics or about anything adult related that at too late in our ages, then we will definitely face a lot of more problems because we're not that much familiar when we start learning about it. This was actually what was discussed, because yesterday I was at the roundtable discussion at University of Putra Malaysia. There were a few other universities, a lot of students and academicians. We were discussing about youth leadership in this current time. And one of the things that the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of UPM mentioned was one of the reasons why he really advocated for the UNI 18 bill was because if we put into the perspectives of everyone's mind that, youth are only going to start voting at the age of 21, then perhaps they will only start learning about politics at age 18. And by the time they reach age 18, that's actually already a crucial point because they're already going to university. And as mentioned before, we already have a lot of politics going on. And so in order to actually get them ready earlier, is to lower the threshold. So this is something that we must also do within households, within every level of society, which is to understand that, yes, although it's not good for us to, I don't advocate as an 18 years old person, even though we're allowed to, I don't advocate for us to go and contest in the elections, in the national elections at least. But at the same time, it's important for us to understand the situation. Otherwise, we'll just be living in an imaginary world of, perhaps not imaginary, but in a fantasy world of
not being aware of what's
going on, and just living in a fake environment, which is what a lot of our youth actually face throughout their childhood.
I agree. I think parents shouldn't shield their children from politics. Instead, if they do show interest, maybe that's where the parents can play their role and guide their children into learning about politics the right way. Alright, so that was a lot, and I think I'll need some time to ponder that as well, and so do you. So we will proceed with our commercial break, but don't go anywhere because in our next session, we will talk more about youth politics and the importance of it in empowering their voices in shaping our country. So see you in 2 minutes, 40 minutes of political knowledge. Assalamualaikum viewers, and welcome back to Political Insight, 40 minutes of political knowledge with Brother Ali. Now, we've talked a lot about how to safely venture into politics as youth and how to use your knowledge for the best. So, Brother Ali, as someone who people look up to, people are inspired with, what is your vision for the future of our country, and how can the youth play their role in getting there?
Well, I think what I aspire to see in the future is that we have a situation where we live in an integrated society. Where what I mean by that is that not only we have like the typical thing that we always talk about is unity among races, or religion and races, ethnicity and all of that. But not only that, also in the sense of age. Any form of demography, in fact. So, for example, currently today we still have a bit of an ageism, I guess.
Ageism.
Which is that the older generation, they say, oh, the youth should shut up and not stay out of this, and then the younger generation also are saying, no, the old people can shut up because you can go back to your retirement homes, and that kind of stigma is often being heard right now. So we must live in a way that we can not tolerate, but actually understand that we live together, assimilate among all sorts of different groups. And also, this also goes in sense of like ideologies or our backgrounds in general. I guess nowadays we're seeing a better view on this, where we have a government, a coalition government from two parties that are previously, enemies with each other. And this is something that should be seen also in any other ways. Just because we are oppositions, just because we are on opposing sides, doesn't mean that we must fight all the time. But politics, unfortunately, is always plagued with that kind of sentiment, because you feel that, okay, if I give the slightest support to that party today, then that party will, in the future, that party will be using that moment to say that, oh, I supported you. So we don't really want that kind of a backlash, even though, honestly, that doesn't really happen, because today we see the enemies and the friends, they've turned around against each other back to back within the past few years, and never does it really matter that they were once in a pact, but now they're fighting against each other. So in any situation, we have to try to collaborate, work together, and not find that animosity among ourselves. For example, one of the things that's very common today in campus politics, I think there's a campus politics from the campus elections from a different university earlier this year, where people were saying, oh, they were very matured or realistic because they had mockery going on in their politics.
I see that's what the problem is. People are looking at the wrong things to make it their role model.
Yes, so that's something that we should avoid. Just because today's national politics is filled with mockery and a lot of sometimes vulgar words or vulgar imagery being drawn, just because that's how it is in the real world, doesn't mean that we must follow. As I mentioned, we're the agents of change, not the agents of followers. We're not going to follow everything that the society today dictates. But at the same time, we must also keep in mind that as much change as we want to make, we have to be aware of the implications and the consequences, and also not to have an anarchistic behavior and attitude whenever we're doing that.
Well, you spoke about ageism just now, and looking at the status quo, a lot of our politicians are undoubtedly from the older generations, and there really is a big gap. So, what do you think? Do you think with the current involvement of youth in politics now, will we see changes in the future, like soon enough, that maybe we can have young people in the parliament? Do you think that will be a long future, or we're close to that?
I definitely think it's coming quite quickly, because honestly, like even during the past election, we've seen more, perhaps if they do not win, but at least there's more youth candidates in the field. Now, when it comes to whether they win or not, that's really up to the voters. You know, you can't really dictate, because sometimes even the youth don't want to vote themselves if they really trust the old people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I don't think that it's wrong for us to, even if, for example, there's many from the seniors who are actually very good, why not let all of them be the members of parliament if they can represent the voice of the youth themselves? Because even if, for example, if I'm or if someone becomes a member of parliament of a certain constituency at the age of 20, it doesn't mean that they're going to represent only those who are 20 years old in the area. They have to represent even if there's someone 200 years old in the area, you know? So we have to understand the fact that just because a person is from a certain demography doesn't mean that they cannot represent other people. It's the attitude to be inclusive and be considerate that's very important. And aside that, you know, it's true that we still need the voices of the minority, but at the same time, in the end, the ratio and all of that, that's a subjective topic. It doesn't mean that we need more youth members in the parliament if the amount, I'm not saying the amount is like the amount of good quality youth members of parliament is enough right now, but if it is enough at just, you know, 10 people out of 222, then the less cooks, the better the broth will be.
I see. I mean, technically the main point of politics is as long as the voices of the people are heard, that's good enough. We shouldn't be fighting on who gets the throne and who doesn't. Well, before we proceed with the last question, let's get back to the chat box. There's actually other questions there, so let's welcome our crew to read them.
So the question is, do you think it's a good approach for me to make my younger siblings understand and be involved in politics at a very young age?
Yeah, okay. So this comes back to the point of how we prepare ourselves in politics. First of all, in any cases of we were trying to give any sort of exposure to other people, we must make sure that we on our own are prepared for that matter. So, for example, I guess the easiest example is a lecturer cannot just teach students without at the very least, if they're a matriculation lecturer, they cannot teach without a degree. They need that. And for the university, a proper lecturer will need a PhD first. So this is basically, I'm not saying that you must have a degree in political science before you can teach your siblings about politics, but or encourage them to learn about politics. But at the same time, if your understanding of politics is very shallow, it doesn't hurt for you to want to explore this together. But at the same time, you must still have that attitude of a student. I am still learning, I'm still studying. The attitude of a learner must still be there in order for you to not, get over your head and probably influence the wrong thing onto other people. Because in the end, as much as we are the leaders of the future, that is a big responsibility on us. It means that we can also lead the people astray. Leading is not just leading to the betterment. You can also lead people astray if you're doing it wrongly. So this is something that we must keep in mind, in the sense that our responsibility as an older sibling or as a member of society in general is to not only help people, go further, but also not to go beyond the limits.
I see. Well, to the brother or sister who asked that question, I hope you are well equipped before you start leading the way with your younger siblings, okay? Now, so we've reached the end of our live session actually. So Brother Ali, you've encountered many types of people in your journey. You face backlash, and I'm sure you have a lot of support as well, I hope. Okay, so could you share your final thought or piece of advice for our viewers, regardless if they are the younger generations or if there are any older generations watching?
I think, first of all, one thing that's really important for us right now is to not be influenced by the mob mentality. just because, as I mentioned, just because you see a lot of flags being raised, just a lot of posters being posted on either online or physically, that doesn't mean that the person is good. Just because they're influential, not all influencers are actually good. Sometimes we follow a lot of toxic influencers because they're sensational, not because they're actually having good qualities. So this is something that we must put in mind whenever we are not only voting, but doing anything in general, taking sides or having opinions in general. This, as you mentioned, this applies not only to the young generations, this applies to everyone. We often judge too easily on the face value without really looking into the details of it. Sometimes we see people saying, oh, if you want to see a better future where, for example, the economy is better, vote for me. Why is that? No idea. Just because he said it,
Yeah.
And it's true that whenever you're campaigning, it doesn't mean that what you're saying has to fully make sense. It's just words of trying to entice your audience into voting you. People always say manifesto bukan janji. A manifesto is not a promise. It's not a holy book. So this is something that we should remember. So not to be easily fooled by the sweet words of politics. And I think this is also something that you can read more on my article on Utusan Nation tomorrow, actually. So this is the problem that we have. We have the PRK, we have two PRKs coming up, 𝐊𝐼𝑼𝑖𝑼𝑎𝑐 Kecil and also 𝐊𝐼𝑼𝑖𝑼 Campus. And this is something that we can really learn from, and also for the longer future that we have.
Okay, well, thank you. That was a great piece of advice. And speaking of campus election, it truly is around the corner. So as youth, I hope you guys take what Brother Ali has advised and use that knowledge to make wise decisions for the upcoming voting day. All right? Now, that's the end of our discussion for today. Thank you to our guests. So, to the viewers, if you like more content like this, where we discuss and talk about politics, don't forget to follow us on our social media, which is IIUMTV. You can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, and of course YouTube. Tune in to us every 9 p.m. each week on Friday. See you later. Political Insights, 40 minutes of political knowledge.